Back in the day, our fathers and their fathers, they were taught you're supposed to work hard. And that got passed down through generations. See, now we're in a time where we understand, though, the hardest working people, to be honest, usually are not the most successful.
Bingo.
I have a friend, man, his dad, he was an early entrepreneur. He used to say, listen, don't tell me about the money you make using your hands. How much money did you make using your head?
Welcome to another episode of the Today for Tomorrow podcast. Fellas, this is this topic, we've heard it talked about forever. Everyone has said, hard work, when does hard work beat talent? There's a bunch of quotes about it. Every motivational speaker has talked about it at some point in time. It's an age-old conversation, but I want to go ahead and throw a new idea into it. I think hard work and talent, you can be super hard working or you can be super talented, but neither of them matter if you ain't producing nothing. And the reason that I say that is because I know there's a lot of people who claim to be working hard, meaning that they're spending a lot of time and a lot of energy doing something, but at the end of the day, you ain't produced nothing. Or at the end of the decade, you ain't gotten nowhere significantly. And it's like there's the super talented people, and it's like, okay, great. You can, without a bunch of outside resources, you can produce something that is magnificent when you do try. But you ain't produced nothing magnificent because you don't try. You wasting time.
Yeah.
So it's like hard work, talent, hard work. Okay, you work hard. This person is super talented. They don't work hard. Okay, so we talk crap about this person, and then this person is praised to be working hard. But I'm here to talk about this person. I feel like I don't think we should spend too much time on them either, because this hard work, if it ain't producing anything significant, then they just turning their wheels.
Man, you said a lot. Y'all know, Mike, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So I was just thinking that. I think everything you're saying is correct. And a big part of this is the quickly shifting dynamic of life, right? Because back in the day, our fathers and their fathers, they were taught hard work. Men, you're supposed to grind, you're supposed to work hard. That's kind of how you associated your success to how hard you worked almost. And that got passed down through generations. See, now we're in a time where we understand, though, the hardest working people, to be honest, usually are not the most successful.
Bingo. That's
beyond. The higher up you go in any business or corporation, they get paid for their ideas.
Exactly.
I have a friend, man. He ended up being a supreme investor, man. We're still best friends, and we motivate each other in our investments in real estate. And his dad, he was one of those, he was an early entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. The reason why I say early is because when I was growing up, it wasn't a lot of us in our community that were full-time entrepreneurs, but he had car washes, he had driving services. He was doing it when we were in high school. And something that he used to say, listen, don't tell me about the money you make using your hands. How much money did you make using your head? From the neck up.
Yep.
No, that's good. I think just to talk about hard work, when you say that, using our hands is not a bad thing, guys. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's necessary. But the way I kind of frame what you just said, and this has been said before too, when it's only you doing it, when you're the only person that can do it, and I grew up working on cars. My dad, mechanic, my brother worked on cars and all that and so forth, but my dad wasn't the only thing my dad did. But the point though is that if you sick, you can't make money if it's all about you and your hands and your whatever you can do.
Because you're not able to go to work.
You're not able to go to work.
Yeah.
So if you're not working, you're not making money. Yeah. If you limited by how much work you can do in a day because it's just you, so you only can cap how much money you can make.
I do want to say, because I want to make that, we need people that utilize their hands, though. We need more tradesmen also. So I want to make that clear that we're not saying that this way is above that. We're not saying that at all, because it's about balance. Some people are naturally gifted and inclined to work well using their hands. We're not saying that that's anything wrong with that either.
And I think where we're going, and like where I was about to go too, taking that talent and skill to use your hand and then take it to the next level where you start to make sure your mind, where it's like, okay, if you are a plumber, if you are an electrician, hey, see about creating yourself a business where you have other people that you can work with. Create your corporation where you don't have to use your hands as much.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's lay the foundation a little bit more, because I think too, I mean, y'all are hitting on like the point of this whole episode. But the thing is, like, there are people they were put on this earth to be extremely good at crafting things with their hands.
Yeah.
There are people who...
Jesus was a carpenter, right?
Right. There are people who, like, that you are here so that you can make cars. You are a mechanic. Like, that is where you are gifted at. And there are some people who are put on this earth to build businesses. I think that's one thing that people definitely, like, misinterpret when we listen to all kinds of different motivation or we listen to business gurus about X, Y, and Z. It's like, oh man, scale. It's like, that's not everybody's role.
Correct.
It's
That's a
not
good
most
point.
people's role, to be honest. And it's by design. And that's where I had this conversation a lot. And now I try to be very careful because I don't want to talk anyone out of their dreams. But if you look at the structure of an organization, you have one leader at the top. And you have soldiers or employees, but there has to be clear and defined leadership. Everyone is not meant or designed to be in that role.
Correct.
So what I keep thinking about is just the word balance. We have to have balance when we're talking, and we have to understand that one size does not fit all. Different strategies are going to be applicable for different people at different times in their life.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you may be ultimately meant to be an entrepreneur, to run a corporation, but you have to start in this position where you're utilizing your hands and understand what that entails.
Exactly. And I think, going back to the hard work versus talent.
Yep.
Taking that talent, whether it be using it, because I love to work on stuff, right? Taking that talent, using it for what God designed it for you to do. But then at the same time, when you take that hard work along with the talent, you're gonna maximize your output. And even with, if I'm gonna use myself as an example, okay, I'm a mechanic. That's what I do. That's my talent, my skill. I put hard work into it. But part of that hard work is not just the physical work itself, it's the other stuff to kind of build what I can do in a way where I can sustain myself long term. And that's where, when I talk about, like, I look at my dad had a plan, right? When he retired, he knew he was gonna have to stop working on cars at one point. When he got to about 70, he stopped getting on that ground and working on cars. He couldn't do it. But he set himself up where he could retire. He squirreled away enough, and made sure, he had another job. So he didn't have to work anymore. And that's the point I think I want to make sure we hit on too, is that you can be successful, but make sure you understand the hard work and talent got to work together. And part of that hard work is figuring out in your mind how you prepare yourself for when you can't work.
There are, I don't want to get to the conclusion too far, but that's the key. He just said it. But like, there's balance.
Yeah.
There's a balance in there, and there's levels to success. Now, there's the I've done it with my hands, I figured it out. There's the okay, and I've got a few people that can help me to do it, so now I can do more. And then there's the I get paid to think. There's different levels to it.
Yeah.
But when we were going back a little bit, you guys made me think about this. I was having a conversation with a guy. He's in his lower 50s, and we were just shooting, and we were just talking about life and stuff. And he was telling me, he does a lot in mortgages, And he was saying that he had done a whole bunch earlier in his life. He had, a few things that happened. He had some kids and X, Y, and Z was happening in his life. But essentially he had his tone got a little bit lower, and he kind of sunk down a little bit when he was speaking, because he was saying to me that he was saying that I'm not happy with where I am in life. I'm disappointed with where I've gotten to. I felt like I feel like I should be further, And this is a dude who's lower 50s. He's lived some life. He has been around a little bit for a little bit of time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, the realization of it was so wild to me, because I'm like, I've got an uncle who has a roofing company, and he does amazing. There's a white van, he's got this logo on it, but it's like, and he's super happy with his life. He's super successful. He's one of those people who's meant to do what he does, period. And he's doing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's other people who feel like, I've always had thoughts of doing this other thing. I've always had thoughts of doing this at a different level. But then it's like, I'm talented in it, and I had the work ethic at one point. It got me moving, but for one reason or another, I'm not at the point that I thought I should be at. And so there's this disappointment, this almost regret with the last 50 years of life, because it's like, what happened?
Well, I hear that, and I can relate to it in a lot of ways, because looking at myself, complacency, right? So, hey, I worked at one spot for a long time, and I look back and you get complacent, because it's like, okay, it can sustain you. You feel like you had some moderate success here and there, whatever. And you feel like you get locked into your surroundings, like you kind of comparing yourself to the people around you, and you think, okay, well, yeah, this is cool. But then you realize, at least for me, my talent is not being utilized to its max. So I'm working hard and doing the job, but I'm not working hard and growing my talent and using it. So now I'm at a place, and this is where both of you guys have helped me kind of get my mindset wrapped around, wait a minute, I'm thinking too small. I need to go out and realize that, what, to the point, I can be more valuable doing other things. There's more things I can do. But the complacency stopped me from doing it up to this point.
So something that I was thinking about when you were talking is, a lot of times we say hard work versus talent, or hard work or talent. Like who wins? They're against each other. But it's an equation of hard work and talent. That's when you find that sweet spot. To me, in my opinion, is this has to be a perfect blend, because what are you naturally talented in? And if you work hard in those areas, that's when you have a recipe for success, and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so sad to me to think about. You've mentioned this in a previous episode about the quote that you heard about the graveyard is the richest or the wealthiest place.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yep.
And it's because, and what you just said was very real. And I hope it hit everybody. Honestly, I hope it hit everybody, because that is so, it's so easy to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, you might start off, super inspired, super go get it, and I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna figure this thing out. And some people, they chop it up to, well, when I was young, I had the energy to do it. I ain't got the energy to do it. Yeah. And it's like, but wait, there was a time for you to have that energy. What did you do with it? There was a time. We all know life gonna happen. You're gonna get a little bit less energy as you move along. But with that, are you growing to the point where you're doing something different and still reaching the points that you're trying to hit? And it's like, man, the thing that I avoid, the thing that I really hold, that I'm reminded of all the time, is that I heard one time back at the beginning of college, it's like this cycle. I learned about what they call the rat race, right? this cycle that people go in where they just do something just to do it because it fulfills an immediate need, and they do that thing consistently because they never set any sort of plan for themselves. They're never intentional about what they're doing. They're just kind of doing things to get by. And then a lot of people, they kind of end up in this place of depression and regret because they look back on their life and realize, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Or they did a lot, but they didn't go after some of the dreams that they had internally.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people where they're pretty successful in their lane, but they just weren't happy.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the part where life is meant to be lived. Like our time in this world is not forever. It's very finite. We don't even know how much time we have. This should be enjoyable. We shouldn't have to endure life, you know. But I do believe in hard work. I wanna make that clear too. I think all of us, just knowing each other, we do firmly believe in the principles of hard work. Now, to be clear, hard work doesn't have to be defined as, you know, you go out, you deplete all your energy, you're just sun up to sun down, you're just working, just grinding, getting after it. No, you could be working hard at playing with your kids and building a relationship with your kids. You can be working hard at dating your wife that you've been in a marriage for 10, 20 years at. You can be working hard at other things. It's not just about what, you know, maybe we thought it was back in the day where I gotta grind, because what happens is we started seeing a lot of our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers, by the time they were 50, 60 years old, they were like beat up by life.
Burned out, yeah.
Because they grinded they never really maintained the machine.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it used to be where people would retire and die like a few years after.
Yeah, and that's
because like you said, they ran themselves so hard, and their body just couldn't take it no more. They neglected themselves. But one thing that just I'm throw this in here for a minute, because you know, we talk about sports a lot, and as we were talking about this hard work versus talent piece, I always think about growing up in Chicago, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got drafted like number 3. You know, Kim Elijah went first, Sam Bowie went second, which Portland, they're probably mad at themselves. But anyway, the point though, Michael Jordan came to the league. I remember what they said about him. His, you know, wasn't the best shooter. His mid-range shot was kind of suspect, weak on defense. But Michael Jordan had mega talent, you know, handle the rock, whatever. So what he did progressively was to work hard to improve his game. So he became a better shooter and became one of the top defenders. He had goals. He became like the top he won the 3-point shooting contest, I think, one year. You know, so the point I'm getting at is he took a talent, but he loved basketball, right? So he took talent, hard work, something he loved and won. So where I'm going now is that you got some basketball players who got the talent to play basketball, who are exceptional at playing basketball, put moderate work in, but they really don't love the game. You know what I mean? And you see it.
I think that's a great, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because Michael Jordan is a perfect analogy where what I've found with having young kids is that it's a trend where we're specializing these kids very young. Like, I mean, and it has some pros to it, but it also has some cons where, well, let me talk about the pros first. Some of these kids are way advanced in this one thing, like super early, way more advanced than we were at sports, because all they do, they play football year round, they train, or they play baseball year round. When we were coming up, we were athletes. We played in the field. We did everything. Michael Jordan is a great example. He's a baseball player. He was a really good baseball player. Matter of fact, he ended up becoming one of the best basketball players, but he got cut from his high school team. He wasn't the man in high school. So going back to the pros and cons of just early specializing is there's pros where you can be hyper-focused, but at the same time, you may not give yourself a chance to be really good at something else because you never even tried that. And another thing I see is a lot of people get burnt out. It's kids that retire playing a sport before they hit high school because they've been playing since they were 4 or 5, and it was hyper focused, hyper competitive. Dads and uncles yelling at them and berate them all the time. And it's the saddest thing in the world to me because I'm like, some kids don't peak until high school.
Yeah.
But because of the experience, it was so overly programmed, over specialized, they don't know how to adapt and they're burnt out. They don't want to do it anymore. So going back to that word we used earlier, balance. I think balance is key, and it has to be a special blend between the two, hard work and talent.
And I think too, like, this episode is 100% about balance. That's just what it is. But the thing is, you can't get any of those results with being lazy.
No, you're right.
That's true.
That's true.
You can be the most talented person out there, but if you're lazy, you just can't. And then also too, I think this is a misconception that people have, is that they're working hard physically, but they're lazy mentally.
Yeah.
So they don't get nowhere. Again, you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
Laziness doesn't just mean that you didn't put in the time today. It means that you didn't think, you didn't balance, you didn't do what you needed to do to get to the result you were trying to get to.
Well, and when you said that, it just triggered in me. You know, we know the parable about the master who gave the talents to the 3 individuals, and this kind of fits right. And in that case, talents was a way of currency or whatever. But so the point though is that one got 5, one got 2, one got 1, I believe. I might have that wrong. But the point though is that the one that got 5 and 2, they went out, they took their talents, and they grew. Yeah, they doubled them actually. So the one that had 1 buried his, you know, and it was like, so they all worked at doing something. And I heard you kind of use this analogy too, Martell, is that they all did some work, but one did the work to bury their talent and hide it, you know, pretty much, and just go dig it up when the master came back and asked for it, just give him what he gave him. And that's what, you see, a lot of people take their talent and they bury it. They'll take the work to bury it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's easier when you get into a rhythm of just really physically working hard. It's easy to stay in that. It's like, I just do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. That's the people who like work somewhere forever, but then they didn't get where they were like, I thought I should have been promoted by now. It's like, you ain't never provide no more value.
No.
And a lot of people, they don't even have a plan to get promoted. So it's like you're working. I thought I should be, but what was your plan? Well, I didn't have a plan.
What was your plan?
Did you fail to plan? And if you failed to plan, then you might have planned to fail.
Plan to fail, yeah.
You know, that it's really, it goes back to, we overcomplicate some of this stuff. In today's world, I think we get caught up in, just sometimes too much information is not great either.
Well,
let's keep it simple. Like you have to have a plan in place. That's number one. That starts by thinking. You have to have some thoughts. Once you think, you have to put a plan in place, but then you have to have action, okay? And in my opinion, I think you need to spread your actions in a diverse way and try different things. So you can see where your natural talents are. Once you find your natural talents, work hard in it. And then that's when fruit will start to reveal itself.
I think I want to go back to a point that you made, you just made, but also made before. One piece that I feel like the people out there need to really understand is that once you are talking about the kid who's been doing a sport for X amount of years and they're tired of it now. Mm-hmm. At some point, after you are underdeveloped, meaning that you need guidance from a parent, you need to grow up. Mm-hmm. And then in that growing up part, you need to go ahead and sub in the ultimate authority, the ultimate guide, which is the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And that Holy Spirit will lead you to what you need to do next so that you can stay motivated, stay inspired, and stay productive on what He has you on the earth to do.
Yeah.
We have to teach our kids this, though. And we have to teach them that early, where they're learning to think for themselves. They're learning to be guided by the Holy Spirit and actively make decisions for themselves. Because that's another good point, where you have to constantly tell a kid or even a person like an employee, all right, do this, and then you gotta do this, and then you're not teaching them to think. You're just throwing them fish. You're not teaching them to fish. They're not gonna be able to sustain and be a thriving member of society.
No, they're gonna wait to be directed.
Yep.
And I don't want to keep us for another 30 minutes, but there's just, you made me think of it. Me and Rodney, we were having this conversation, and this irks me. The idea of hourly wages, like just the thought of it, like being paid based on how much time you spend to do a thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it just straight up goes against God's creation, straight up, because it's like God put Adam in the garden so that he can be productive, and it's like if Adam didn't cultivate, if he didn't grow it, if he wasn't planting, if he wasn't watering, if he wasn't taking care of it, then no results would be made. He wasn't paid for. He wasn't given life to just be sitting in the garden and then, well, I'll put this over here just now and then I'll wait a year. And then I'll put something over here and then I'll wait a year because I'm being rewarded based on how long it takes me to do it.
And let's get some context to that. I know we're getting to the end, but just to so when Martell and I was having this discussions about this, is like, and Mike, you can relate to this too. So you have people who are salaried, they get paid X amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. They get paid to do a job. Now, if they can do that job within 3 hours, 4 hours, or 8 hours, they get paid to be productive in what they're doing. And so it's like, we talked about people working from home. Hey, I feel like I'm more productive at working from home because I can multitask and do more things. Yeah. I get more done. Yeah. Versus that person who spends 10 hours in the chair that do half as much as you do, but get paid by the hour. So it's like, what's more important? Going back to the garden piece, being productive, period, not measuring, I'm on the clock.
Anytime you have a measurement of exchanging just time, pure time for money, you're really you're counterproductivity, right? And what I think about is when we used to supervise in the plants, right? And we would have what's deemed as like an 8 hour days, a fair days,
Fair days work.
So what happened is, the funny thing, I was like, listen, man, I talked to my crew. I said, listen, let's get it done. Because at the end of the day, let's get this work done. Mm-hmm. And miraculously, they would start getting it done in like 3 hours. And they'll say, listen, if I get this done early, my time is, I said, listen, if you do your 8 hours, however long it takes you to do your 8 hours, that's your time. That's what is deemed as 8 hours. Mm-hmm. So they would get it done in 2 or 3 hours and be chilling the rest of the day. But they did their work. I'm checking my bots. But what happens is we had a new plant supervisor, and he didn't like that. He's like, no, I don't. They need to be working from bill to bill. I think that's just they huffed and puffed. So what happened was all they did was just slow it down. Yep. They taking extra breaks, they moving extra slow. And I was like, this is crazy, it doesn't make sense. But the issue was we gave them the incentive of getting paid for their time. It wasn't about their true production.
No.
It was just, all right, you're gonna be here for this time. And so going back to your point, both of you guys' point is, we as people, we have to be motivated by something that we can actually produce, not just spending our times, because a lot of people, they spend a lot of time doing a whole lot of nothing. This is a lot of people spend a lot of time on these phones, and they scroll and they're just mindless or watch TV, just kind of wasting time.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we talk about time, we got to be critical today about our time.
Yeah.
I hate to cut this short, but we're gonna need to close out. And we got a couple things. We probably need to come back to this one too as well. Yes. That's a whole lot of elements.
There's a lot of elements, and there's a lot of roads that could be taken with it. But I think going back to what we were talking about, hardworking talent, there's a balance. Mm-hmm. There has to be that balance. We talked about it before. There's the person who's been working with their hands for X amount of time, and they've reached a certain level of success in that area. It's time to level up.
Yeah.
If you stay there, you will then start to feel unfulfilled, unproductive, and you won't have as much energy 10 years later.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to level up, literally.
Yeah, right.
And so there's a way to do that. There's methods to do that, but also that makes you have to not be lazy mentally to actually do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I know we gotta want to talk about the Men 2.0. So, fellas, if you are out there looking for a group of strong Christian individuals who are out trying to change the world, look, we got a group for you. Men 2.0. FIC is the people who are putting it all together. Rodney knows about it. Mike's been there. I mean, I go there. It's absolutely amazing. These brothers are solid individuals. Like I'm not talking about just people who are like good at something, or they kind of Christian, or they feel like maybe they should do it every now and then. These are dudes who are out making things happen in their marriage, in their business, in their work life. So if you want more information about Men 2.0, go ahead and look in the description below. There's going to be a link there that's going to give you everything that you need. There's a form to fill out. Please fill it out. If you're in Michigan, come in person. Like you come and meet us, dude. Like come and meet the fellas. We are real people. Like for real. Like look. This is he's a real person. Come and join us. Come be a part of this whole thing. It's great. It's phenomenal. Also, if you like this episode, then I'm sure of it, you're gonna like this one on the screen right here. So go ahead and press that, and we will see you there. Peace.
Peace.